Welcome back to Spokane Talks Live, and I'm welcoming back Robin Haynes from McNeice Wheeler. It's like an attorney's office, isn't it?
It is. It's Robin Haynes from McNeice.
What did
Wheeler,
I say?
Though. Hayes.
I did, didn't I?
You did.
Oh,
we just talked about it today.
Oh, yeah, and that's probably why. Okay, remind me before we go on next time not to talk about doing the wrong name because I just followed through.
Just use my first name.
Yeah, well, sue me or something. Okay, well, I'm kidding. The topic that you suggested today I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah.
And you said, let's talk about employees and a couple of issues. Mm-hmm. And the first one was weed. Yeah. Now, I'm guessing you don't mean the kind that we have to dig out of our yard and our lawn.
I wasn't going to target landscaping companies.
Okay,
no.
okay.
No. Although I didn't realize we're going to quote my email, so I guess we'll say employees in recreational marijuana.
Okay. Yes.
Today's hot topic.
And here we are with a lot of companies that have the testing beforehand to be employed mm-hmm. and everything else, and employees going, but it's legal in this state.
That's right.
So I think we need to talk about what is legal and what employers can do and what employees need to know.
That's right.
Because it didn't just open up Pandora's box in terms of, yes, you can do it.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So if you have a pre-existing, you talked about the pre-screen for employment.
Right.
Which often occurs in kinds of employment where there's safety issues. Like
sure.
if you're a UPS driver, if you're handling sensitive materials.
I would guess linemen at Avista.
Absolutely.
KHQ I know does this, and a lot of others where, they have to make sure that everyone is safe.
That's right. So as long as they have an existing pre-employment policy that they apply to everyone.
Okay.
They can still test. They have to identify what they're testing for.
Pre-existing mean did they have to go back before the law changed, or if I'm forming a new company, I could do it?
Yes, if you're forming a new company, and you have to make sure you're doing
from then on,
it for
everybody.
Every employee that you're potentially hiring. You can't just decide, you know what, Kent looks really safe. I don't think he's on drugs. I'm not going to screen him. You have to do it for everyone across the board.
Well, that would make sense. That would only be fair. That would only be fair.
So the pre-screen, I think people are a little less worried about. And as an employer, you can decide if you want to hire someone based on that drug analysis.
Right.
But you have to tell the potential employee that there's a screening and these are the things we're going to look for and that you may not be hired because of it.
Yes.
And marijuana gets a little interesting because it stays in your system so much longer than other kinds of drugs.
Okay.
Sometimes up to 30 days later you can find it in your hair follicles and things. Not just the smoke and the smell, but the literally still in your system, whereas other kinds of drugs leave your system a little more quickly, like pills and things of that nature.
Okay, sure.
So as long as you let the employees know up front, you're fine. People are really more concerned about
the
smoking.
surprise. What about the surprise drug testing?
Well, surprise drug testing, you better have an ironclad employment policy that says we will surprise drug test you.
Okay.
Absent that, never surprise drug test anyone.
Okay.
But what we see more in employee handbooks is a drug policy saying we're against drugs and alcohol and maybe even tobacco, which is also a legal issue, right? Because you don't want your employees to come, maybe you're working with cancer patients or something, you don't want smoke around them, whatever it is. So you can limit legal activities at your office. I know we talked about social media as a potential other topic.
Right.
You can limit things that people are allowed to do within your scope of employment as long as you let them know ahead of time. And you can tell them that you will test them if there's an incident.
Okay.
Like an accident at work, something like that. Or if you really suspect someone is high or intoxicated, right? Another legal thing to drink alcohol. But you have to have it in your policy that that's what's going to happen.
It needs to be spelled out is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
So,
and again, you can't pick and choose, and you have to have valid reasons to do that. So someone who looks sleepy tired or is eating a lot, signs of maybe smoking marijuana, you better be really sure that someone's not just hungry and had a late night.
Oh, okay.
So it's still permissible to do that, but the piece of you can say that you're not going to hire employees who smoke marijuana. You can say that you're not going to, that you'll drug test if there's incidents or if you have it in your policy, but you cannot randomly come in and say, Ken, I think you're high. You have to go without anything in place to warn the employees because it is legal.
Yeah.
And you can certainly say, you can't drink at the office because even though it's legal, you can't drink here.
Right.
You can't smoke marijuana in the office or in your work environment because it's an issue.
Or on the property.
On the property, absolutely.
Right.
Because we don't want that here. That's also permissible.
Right.
And you can terminate someone for that reason.
Okay.
But if you find out that on the weekend Ryan McNeice is smoking marijuana recreationally because it's illegal and he's over 21.
Yeah. Well over 21.
Well over 21. You cannot then on Monday say, you know what, I saw on Facebook or I saw you out at your house smoking marijuana, you're fired.
Okay. But could I test him on Monday?
No, because he didn't come to work impaired.
Okay.
Unless he comes to work impaired and unless you have that policy in place.
Okay.
But you can't just randomly test because you think it happened or it may have happened, or because that'd be the same thing as saying to someone who, let's say, drives a truck for UPS.
Right.
Saying, well, you drank this weekend, now you can't drive because it's a violation of their policy to drink and drive, but it was 24, 48 hours ago.
Right.
So the impairment's on issue.
The take back I'm getting from this is be well documented up front.
That's
isn't
correct.
it? I mean, and what's going on. What amazes me, and I'm not going to identify the company, but it's a major company here in town, will go to hire somebody, and they'll say, Robin, that's great. We'd like to hire you, but as you know, we have a drug testing program, and yet 50 to 70% fail. I don't see that as well, in some ways, the problem of the company, in that they don't probably get some good employees that way, but why aren't the employees or future employees figuring this thing out? They go and get tested, and then, surprise to them.
Right.
I mean, am I just missing something here?
You know, I think some of it is people don't think that the drug test is going to pick up whatever they're taking.
Okay.
I think people assume
It'll be
it's
everybody
going to
else, but not me.
Or that it's things that are illicit that aren't going to get picked up, or they don't realize how long marijuana stays in your system. Or
See, I didn't know that until you said that today.
Or they think that perhaps it's pills, right? We have a prescription pill problem in our community.
Okay.
And that they think because it's a prescribed pharmaceutical that's not going to get picked up by a drug test, even though if you're taking it, obviously, without a prescription, that's illegal.
So if you are taking something under prescription, what should you do? Get a note from your doctor to take that to where you're being tested, so that
disclose it to your employer. I have this medication that I'm on, whatever it is, because you may not know what they're testing for. And a lot of medications, we see this in sports all the time, where someone's taking something that they get in trouble for, and you think, well, why is taking this pill getting someone in trouble? But you don't realize it has a side effect.
Yes.
Right? That enhances performance or something.
Right.
And so letting them know I'm on even antibiotics, which seemingly would be innocuous, maybe there's a side effect.
So the full disclosure by the future employee would make a lot of sense, and then that takes any questions or doubts out, at least on those issues.
That's correct.
Right, okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Next time we need to talk about social media and what we do or don't do on social media and how that affects us because I've got a couple of young guys that work for me and you know, they're doing some crazy stuff out there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's about hiring. It's also about, particularly if you're unionized employees, you best not be trying to limit your employees' social media activity because it might be affecting their union activity.
Oh, great. Okay.
I know.
All right. Well, Robin, thank you very much. And McNeice Wheeler, phone number and email or website.
509-928-4141. It's McNeiceWheeler.com. That's McNeiceWheeler.com.
Yeah, I can get that name right. It's just I can't get your last name right.
Haynes. Apparently, it's been a trend in the community to spell my name incorrectly lately.
Including the Daily Paper.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we had them correct that. Okay, Robin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Always good information. We're going to be back with Don Morgan and his Morgan's Minute right after this.
You gotta eat. You gotta watch. You gotta listen. You gotta run. You gotta play. You gotta ride. And hey, you gotta dance. On the go, in the moment, at the table. Spokane 7 keeps you connected whenever and wherever you choose. Subscribe to the experience.
Hi, this is Kent Adams, co-host of Business Talks. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of friends, Lisa and Alan Gwaltney of Window World. I've known Lisa and Alan for a number of years and know them to be honest and caring folks. They take pride in their windows, sliding doors, and blinds. So when it comes to your home, call them direct at 509-456-5880. That's Window World of Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. And if you tell them Kent sent me, they'll give you 5% off a 5-window installation. Call them today at 456-5880.
Generating electricity is a complex process, but when you think about it, what we do is pretty simple. We turn water into ideas, natural gas into a helping hand, wind, lifelong memories, we provide energy for life.
Welcome back. Kent Adams, Spokane Talks Live, and as we always do toward the end of our program here, bringing up the rear, but no dogs or cats following you anymore. Don Morgan, Independent Wealth Connections, and what are we going to talk about today?
Banks. Banking. Money.
Okay. I like making money.
Well, banks
Hard to do, though.
It is. It's harder now than ever. I
I
love this quote. This is from J. Paul Getty. If you owe the bank $100, that's your problem. If you owe the bank $100 million, that's the bank's problem.
Well, I'm not the second one.
What's interesting to me, the theme of my talks lately and of the column I write is deflation.
Yes.
And deflation is the reduction of stuff.
Right.
There's lots of different definitions. The action or process of deflating or being deflated. The number of banks in this country has been deflated.
Yes, because a few years back, right, community banks and some of the others, the downsizing, the combining of banks and so forth.
So in 1986, which is 30 years ago by my reckoning,
oh, Lord.
I know, there were 14,000 commercial banks in the United States. Guess how many today?
12.
5,300.
Wait a second. It went from 13,000
14,000.
14,000 to 5,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In 30 years.
In 30 years.
That's deflation.
Okay.
Now, take another guess. How much total deposits are in the U.S. banking system?
20 trillion?
Close. About 19 trillion.
Almost paid the debt.
Yep. How much of that is held by the big banks?
Most of it.
More than half of it.
Yeah.
More than half of it.
Yeah.
The small community banks that you talked about are disappearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the challenges...
And that banker that you always knew and went to lunch with is now working for the big bank or retired.
And sometimes they've moved over into the credit union world.
Ah, okay.
So the credit unions...
There's been an increase in credit union, hasn't there?
Well, and two big ones have come to Spokane, and this is sort of creating shockwaves throughout the Spokane financial world.
Okay.
That's Boeing Employees Credit Union.
Yes.
And Alaska USA.
Okay.
Alaska USA bought the banner branches in Safeway.
Okay.
And Boeing is going to put 3 branches, one in the valley, one right near the downtown Division Street University District area, by where Bergen's used to be, and then one on the South Hill.
Okay. And Boeing Credit Union has actually always been here, but it's been their back office.
Very quiet.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, they have hundreds of employees, but no branches. Now they're going to have branches and lending.
Okay.
They're bringing hundreds of millions, probably close to $1 billion in capital to the Spokane market.
Okay.
Well, Spokane's a relatively small market.
Yes.
And they're able to compete because they're very good at what they do, so they have low interest rates.
Right.
So banks face 3 or 4 risks. One is low interest rates.
Yes.
And their real challenge is they take in short-term deposits. You deposit a paycheck or a customer's check, and then they lend out for 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or 10 years. And so they get money in that goes out, and then they lend it out. And if it doesn't keep coming back in, then they have to go borrow money. And so they run that risk. And they're lending on typically a fixed interest rate for car loans and things like that.
Right.
Well, if you do an 8-year car loan, which people
they're
are doing.
starting to do.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
At 4%, let's say.
Yeah, but cars today cost what houses did when you and I were younger.
True story. They don't have to, though. You can buy a new car today for the same price I paid for a new car 30 years ago. Because I paid for my 1983 Buick, I paid $14,000.
Yes.
And you can get a nice starter car for $17,000.
Right.
Which is essentially the same price over 30-some years.
Yeah.
People want the fancy car.
Oh, yes.
So the first risk banks take is interest rate risk. Because
Okay.
if they lend out at a fixed rate and interest rates go up, they have to go borrow.
Okay.
Well, darn, they lose a little money. Risk number 2, they lend out at a fixed rate and they don't get paid back.
Oh, that's not good.
That's not good. Risk 3, somebody that they didn't lend money to hacks into their system and steals money.
Oh, that's really not good.
Or in the old days, you'd walk in with a gun.
Yes.
So
Well, don't do that at an STCU credit union out in
the
the valley.
customers might shoot you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the challenge in the banking world today is the interest rates that we talked about last week. And as we get into a negative interest rate market, banks are starting to charge customers to deposit money.
Right.
It's a very strange world we live in today.
Yeah. I've got to ask this question, then we're going to have to wrap it up. But today, car loans and other loans are somewhere, between 3 and 5%, 6%?
Or more. I mean, you can pay more.
Well, what is the bank paying for that money?
Anywhere from close to zero
Okay, right.
to 2 or 3%, depending on how urgently they need it.
Okay. So they need like a 3 or 4% margin, if they will, to pay the costs of doing all the work.
Yeah, that's a good number.
I just wondered what it was,
And that 3% spread's been around in banking a long time.
Okay. But it's a higher percentage when you're loaning out at 6%
Right.
versus at 12 or 18%.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But that's also why you can afford a $50,000 8-year car loan.
God.
Well, I know it's crazy, but people do.
Yeah, I know. All right. When I got one of those Corollas a couple years ago, I think it was $17,000. Love it.
You can get them.
Yes.
And it's
yeah.
a good car.
Excellent car. Don Morgan, thank you very much. Independent Wealth Connections, and your phone number is?
509-931-1088.
All right. Always got to give a quick ad here at the end.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, thanks for watching today, and we will see you next week. We have some really fun guests next week.
Spokane Talks Live is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. To recommend a guest or topic and to watch or hear this program again, go to SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Join us next Wednesday at noon for an hour of great conversations on Spokane Talks Live.
Hi, this is Kent Adams, co-host of Business Talks. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of friends, Lisa and Alan Gwaltney of Window World. I've known Lisa and Alan for a number of years and know them to be honest and caring folks. They take pride in their windows, sliding doors, and blinds. So when it comes to your home, call them direct at 509-456-5880. That's Window World of Spokane and Coeur d'Alene. And if you tell them Kent sent me, they'll give you 5% off a 5-window installation. Call them today at 456-5880.